biology, and he's also a research associate in the center. And he's working on his PhD funded by a project from the African Research University Alliance, or ARUA, and the project is Unlocking Resilient Benefits from African Water Resources. And the center is a node within that project, and Alphonse is going to be talking about the importance of biological indicators in water quality monitoring. And this is a big emphasis we've had in the center for a while, is exploring the role and the feasibility of using biological indicators to monitor freshwater ecosystems. And then we will go to the next two speakers from the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association, Jean Ferris Niyomwingeri. I hope I said that properly. And he's going to be talking about that organization's efforts to protect wetlands and the iconic species in the wetlands. And he's going to be joined in that talk by Dr. Deo Ruhagazi, who is a senior program manager in Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association. And then we will go to the last two speakers, and that will be speakers from ARCOS, Albertine Rift Conservation Society, and we'll be hearing from Christella Iradakunda, and she's the Bugesera Landscape Manager for ARCOS, and she'll be joined in her talk by Brigitte Kamoyigenge, and she is the head of Community Development Program at ARCOS, and they're going to be talking about Amasangano Wetland Collaborative Restoration, Challenges and Opportunities. So you see we have a variety of speakers, and they're going to be talking about a number of different projects that are happening in the country, and we hope that this will generate some really exciting discussions and opportunities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker, Professor Bizuru. Welcome. And I think you can take over the mic and the screen. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Professor Kaplan. I'm going to try to share my screen. You will tell me if you get it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to be very quick because I have around 50 slides and I have only 15 minutes to talk. I'm going to be a little bit quick. I'm going to talk about the sustainable use of wetlands in Rwanda, status, opportunities, and the challenges. The services provided by wetlands. What I'm going to focus on is just the four complex of wetlands we have in Rwanda: the Rugezi, Kamiranzovu, Rweru Mugesera complex, and Akagera complex. I'm going to start with the Kamiranzovu wetlands. This is the most protected wetlands as it is included inside the Nyungwe National Park. You have a very, very special species there, very uncommon species, orchids, sphagnum. The sphagnum species are not found in many places in Rwanda, but in Kamiranzovu you have them, and in Rugezi you have carnivorous plants like Drosera madagascariensis. You have orchids, several orchids like Rophia hofsali. It is a wonderful wetland, very rich, not only in plants, but also in mammals. You have mammals like Attilus pallidinosis. You have antelopes like Trageraphus scriptus. Rugezi wetland is a wetland that used to be disturbed in early 2000. And because of drainage, I remember in 2004, we were able to walk through the whole wetland without any problem because it was dried up. But in 2011, the water came back and the wetland was restored. It is a wetland dominated by a vegetation called the Miscanthus violaceus. It is a very tall grass. You can find there some other species like lobelia, like hydrocotyl. These are very uncommon plant species. You can have also carnivorous species like this one, Utricularia inflexa is an aquatic plant that is carnivorous. You have there a wide variety of bird species, mammals like Tragelaphus peccae, and when you look at some particular plants, you have plants like Eriocolon chimperi, Elophia angolensis. This is Norchis. You have Disaemini. You have Alchemilla. In some areas that are disturbed, that get more organic or inorganic fertilizers from hillside, you have Cyperus latifolius. When you go to Mugesera complex, it is the most wide complex in wetlands that we have in Rwanda, and it is very rich in aquatic or wetland bird species. It is also a very rich complex in mammals, like especially with these ipos, Lutram maculacolis, and we have some monkeys. Plant species that you have there are mainly those Pistia stratiotes, Nymphea nuttali, Nymphea lotus, Vosia cuspidata, Polygonum pulchrum, Paspalidum, Geminatum, and many other particular plant species. Fish that you have there, because we have lakes in Igueru, you have tilapia, you have clarias, you have Haplochromys, you have a species or species that is called the Protopteris, that is also carnivorous and invasive. We are going to talk about that in the next slides. Akagera wetland complex is subdivided into two parts. There is a part that is outside the park and a part that is inside the park. The most characteristics of this wetland is the presence of the shoebill. It is a very rare species that has been observed in Akagera complex. Like Mugesera complex, you have also ipos populations, but in addition to that, you can get these Loxodonta africana. These are elephants that are located inside the park. The vegetation is dominated by Cyperus papyrus, Vosia cuspidata. Some special species like Spheranthus suaveolens, that is, I mentioned this species because it is an aromatic plant. In terms of fish, you have more than 20 species that are restricted to swamps. Among them, you have Bagrus, you have Aphromastas embellus, you have the Synodontis, including Synodontis rwandae, that is endemic to the wetland Akagera complex. When we go outside the Akagera complex in the surroundings, we have some small wetlands like this Bishop Kainamura forest that is located in Igahara sector. This forest is dominated by trees dominated by Anthocleista. In the wetlands, we have ferns like Cyclosorus interruptus, that was used to be called Telicteris gongylodes. Outside these wetlands, when you go outside these 4 complexes, we have also some other interesting wetlands. For instance, when you go to Western Province in Rusizi, you have a small wetlands, Mashuza. In Mashuza, we used to have this species, this endemic species, only known in this area, Nymphaea termarum. When you go to Western Kivu, you can have this Euphorbia dawei and Phoenix reclinata. I must say that Euphorbia dawei is a very uncommon species in Rwanda. And when you go in Nyungwe, at Wasenkoko, you can find some small wetlands. In those small wetlands, you have Lobelia mildebredi, that is adapted to very cold environment, and you have some endemic plant species like the Xeris valida, Xeris capensis, that has only located. In terms of biodiversity, we should talk the whole day and without being complete. But let me leave the biodiversity inventory there and talk about the economics. We have been able to evaluate the value of Akagera Wetland Complex, just the portion that is located outside the park. That one, it is a very small wetland, and we came up with a huge amount of money when we counted the dairy production, the capture fisheries, commercial agriculture. We had more than $5 million per year that comes from this wetland. When we add on the agriculture in the surroundings, the water extraction, we come up with around $1 million per year. When we add on carbon storage and the sequestration, and we totalize everything, we saw that the value of this wetland per year is about $11 million per year. This is how to highlight the importance of these wetlands in terms of economic value. When you go to Rugezi wetlands, Dr. Masozera has been able to evaluate this wetland, and he came up with a huge amount of value, economic value, in 2014. That was more than $300 million per year. This is actually very huge, and this is how this is to demonstrate not only the biodiversity value, but also the economic value of our wetlands. We have not yet evaluated or the Rweru Mugesera complex. I invite those the young one to evaluate those wetlands so that we know the real value of all the wetlands that we have in Rwanda. Talking about some challenges, we have invasive species, starting by this one, the Protopteris aethiopicus. This is a species that has been introduced when the government wanted to control some diseases like bilharzia, but it spread out very quickly and it multiplied, and now it is feeding on tilapia, and it causes ecological imbalance and economic loss, and it damages fish nests. It's very aggressive, but the good news is edible and can be commercialized. We have also another problem of threatened species like Labeo victorianus. It is a critically endangered species, and it is located only downstream Rusumo Falls in Akagera. We have invasive species like Acornia crassipes or water hyacinth. This species, when you look at this map, in red, this is the location we found this species. It is in many wetlands. You can get it from Nyabarongo, you can get it in Mukungwa, you can get it in Akagera, but in Western Province, we do not have this invasive species. When we talk about other challenges, we should talk about agriculture expansion. Agriculture is encroaching on wetlands in many areas of the country. Here I gave an example of Gisagara district. We measured, we mapped the agriculture expansion in 1990 and compared to 2015. And when you look at this map in the blue, these were the wetlands. But when you look at the map in 2015, you will see that the wetlands has shrinked. We no longer have, everywhere is cultivation with crops, and the wetlands are no longer there. It is like the hillside. Because of those activities, some consequences have appeared, especially in the Gisagara district. Some pests have invaded the rice crops, like Grillotalpa. This is a Grillotalpa that is causing a lot of damage in rice crops. The population have reported this because of this insect has lost its native habitat. Other challenges are related to pesticides. The government of Rwanda is increasingly importing pesticides. Those pesticides include cypermethrin, includes profenofos, include maconzeb, include lambda-cyhalothrin. They include what we call rocket, and those most of them are spread on maize and rice. Can you imagine spraying pesticides in the rice crops while the rice is normally cultivated in wetlands? When you look at the report from U.S. report of Environmental Protection Agency, there is a suspicions that cypermethrin pesticide may be carcinogen. This cypermethrin, it has been demonstrated that this cypermethrin that is mainly used in rice and maize is highly toxic to fish, and is highly toxic to bees, and very, very highly toxic to water insects. Can you imagine the damage that can be caused by these pesticides in aquatic systems? I put this because I want to encourage the younger scientists to go further and help us to know more with the impact of these pesticides on aquatic microinvertebrates, on aquatic on fish, and other biodiversity that we can encounter inside wetlands. When we talk about lambda-cyhalothrin, the lambda-cyhalothrin is a fungicide that is moderately toxic to mammals, but not toxic to birds, but highly toxic to bees, and very extremely highly toxic to freshwater fish and invertebrates. We need to document this by deep research. That's why I'm presenting this. And we have some opportunities. We have availability of water for irrigation. If we can use this water from wetlands to irrigate the hillside, the pressure on wetlands will be reduced in terms of agriculture and land reclamation. Some other opportunities is touristic opportunities like birding, like visiting wetlands biodiversity. In our wetlands, we have a lot of soil fertility, and we have availability of vegetation that is rich in nutrients that can be used to produce more organic fertilizer and make hillside more productive and reduce the pressure on wetlands. And an example is given here from our study. We studied species like Persicaria senegalensis, Cyperus latifolius, Digitaria, and Oriza, and we measured
something on the structure or efficiency.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And I think you will put your questions or comments in the chat. And we will address those later in the talk, and we'll keep moving forward now. We're going to shift to the second speaker, and I'm trying to see if Alphonse and Zora is here to give his presentation about using biological indicators. Alphonse, are you here?
Hi, yes, I think Alphonse is not here. We have electricity cut off here in Huye. Maybe.
I am available.
Okay.
Oh, great. Okay, welcome, Alphonse. And we'll have you take over. Welcome.
Let me share.
And then after Alphonse's talk, we're going to go to the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association. Apologies for the shift, but Professor Bizuru has to leave for a meeting by 4, so that's why we shifted.
Okay.
So
Hello.
thank you for your patience. Yeah, go ahead, Alphonse.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share with you the importance of biological indicators in quality monitoring. First of all, we can ask ourselves.
Sorry, Alphonse, there's a happening.
I don't know.
Maybe just make sure nobody else has a microphone on where you are. Start again. Alphonse, are you there?
Let me share it again.
Bertrand Mugabo, maybe microphone, please.
The first question that we may ask ourselves is to know what is biological indicators or biological indicators. It can be any living organism like planktons, animals, microbes that can be traced to screen the health of natural ecosystem in the environment, footprints that can take place in the environment. Those can be organisms, they are known as bioindicators or biomarkers. They can be micro or macroorganisms. Those bioindicators include the biological process, species, communities used to assess the part of the environment and how it can change over time. In the aquatic environment, it can involve evaluation of condition of water bodies with the use of biological surveys and other.
Sorry, just 1 minute, Alphonse. Bertrand Mugabo. Bertrand Mugabo, can you please mute? If anybody knows Bertrand Mugabo, you can call him and ask him to mute, please. Okay, go ahead, Alphonse.
I don't know what.
No, don't stop screen sharing, please, Alphonse. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. You don't need to stop screen sharing, okay?
Yeah, but I don't know what is happened because
Nothing happened. It's just a
It's not sounding.
participant who did not mute his microphone. Just keep going. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So what I was saying it is that for the biological indicators, it can be used by evaluating the any living organism in the aquatic environment to measure resident biota in the surface water. By assessment of aquatic pollution, typically look at the assemblage of organisms such as plankton, benthic macroinvertebrates, fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and vegetation that can be present in the water body. So those organisms can be used as bioindicators. They can characterize since they can be high sensitive than other chemical indicators that can be found in the water system. Different biological indicators were developed from different living organisms, including fish. Here we have fish assemblage integrity index, macroinvertebrate, South African scoring system. This is mostly used here in the Eastern African because since we didn't yet develop our own index for macroinvertebrate. Profit, here we have the Parian vegetation index, and the most used are benthic macroinvertebrate, fish, but algae are the most used often because they are very sensitive and even they can be found everywhere in the aquatic system, including rivers, lake, and even wetland. Looking on the biological indicators, they started to be used since 1960s, and the different studies have integrated the biomonitoring tools into regular water resource management and the conservation program in the part of the world, like USA, Europe, South Korea, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. But looking for the African countries, including our country, Rwanda, we are lagging behind. Exception is on South Africa, where we have they use datums and even macroinvertebrate in water resources management. Water quality monitoring is a very important tools to establish water quality standards in the management of water resources. But here in Rwanda, we still use water quality monitoring, especially by looking on physical-chemical parameters, but also some bacteriological conditions like Escherichia coli, Shigella in water sample. But this traditional measurement based on physical-chemical parameters, it has some limitation because it can capture only the pollutant at the we are taking. So this limitation because the condition of the time of sampling, increasing probability of missing some sporadic pieces of pollutant. Now, why the biological indicators can be better than those using physical-chemical parameters? Here, first, for those bioindicators, they can be used in order to capture the pollutant in the and even past and even to predict the future environment condition. We can look on the tolerance ratio, provide the picture of biological of pollutant, no matter how they can be small. Aquatic monitor communities, they are sensitive indicators as they integrate and reflect the effect of environmental disturbance that occur over extended periods, thereby providing a holistic of health. Another benefit of use of biological indicators is the ability to indicate indirect of portent when many physical measurement cannot done. Maybe I can give an example looking on if the phosphorus, it is increasing bodies. Some organisms can capture this phosphorus, and this phosphorus can limit the productivity in the water bodies. If we analyze the physicochemical parameters, cannot indicate how the organisms they are decreasing, but by looking on the organisms in the water bodies, you can see how living organisms can decrease due to competition. Biological assessment of water quality is cost effective. This requires only basic equipment, and so this can be an answer. Financial limitation are an issue. Here, once we try to give even training on local people, they can know how to capture those organisms and how they can be easily. In addition, biological assessment could be a useful alternative and rapid assessment tool to examine the status of water quality based on presence, absence of considered bioindicators. Now, what make a good bioindicators? Here, simply to be a good indicator, some organisms used in order to indicate a disturbance or stress in our environment. But depending upon the specific environment, the species present, and local dispersants affect bioindicator species or groups need to be selected. So to select the bioindicators, first we can have, it can provide a response that to disturbance or stress. They can be well studied, means that they can be known, they can be easy and cheap to survey, and also they can provide response reflect to the whole population, community, or ecosystem. And sometimes they can be economically important, either species already being harvested for the other purposes, or they can be having the public interest or awareness to the species. Now, where are we now here in Rwanda? So far, we started to develop the study on diversity as living organisms that are present in the water, especially rivers, wetlands, and even lakes. And here we try to make something on the substrate, especially the sparrows and the Nymphaea and even Vosia cuspidata. And here we fix the sample by using, of course, formaldehyde. Here I can show you the where we try to capture datums on feeds, especially on the papyrus. And here we can use also the phytoplankton to sample the datums. And here in the lab, we try to make treatment of the sample. And here we analyze the datums also under microscope. And those that the image that we capture through microscope, here we have Pineraria, Gomphonemma, Eunotia. So here I provide some examples of art that can be used as bioindicators. Here we have Merosira scrotera that are used in to show good water, and Nichia microcystis, they can be found in polluted water. Those they can be used as indicators of eutrophic water, while Euglena oscillatoria, Cardonas, Senedesmus, Nichia navicula, Those they can be considered as the top genera, which can indicate organic pollution in water bodies. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Alphonse. I hope we are the next, right?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is really great to hear these two speakers, and it's actually a very nice lead-in to now some specific cases. So can we move on to Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I think you have you can access the screen and you can take over. Welcome.
Yes, we have a video that we need to present to show you guys, and it's really highlights some of our works, and the audience is the one to maybe to ask question after the video or to make some comment. So let's share first the video and follow. Later you will ask questions and your comments will be welcome. And let me know if you can see something coming.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay.
It is that time of the year when we bring you our stories from the field. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, meeting in person is still not possible. But this year, we have decided to take you to the field with us. Thank you for joining me today. I am at Umusambi village. So Umusambi village is the Kinyarwanda, Umusambi itself is the Kinyarwanda name for gray-crowned crane. So as the name says, it's a village for cranes. Let me take you back. In 2014, when we started to work with cranes, there were more gray-crowned cranes in people's garden and the hotels than they were in the wild. So what was happening is many people want to have them as pets. So there was a huge demand. Local communities would poach and sell to those who want to have them as pets in their garden. So when we started, our ultimate goal was to end the illegal trade, but also removing all captive cranes and take them back to the wild. So today, I'm happy to tell you that we have actually managed to identify all cranes in captivity and remove them back to the wild. But throughout the process, we came across a huge number of cranes that has had problems of injuries, broken wings, and all sorts of injuries. That means we cannot take them back to their natural habitat. So that's why Umusambi village exists. Umusambi village, it's a restored wetland and grassland that serves as home, a natural home for those disabled cranes. But all the cranes you see here, they are not all disabled. We also have like a huge number of cranes that came from other wetlands and have claimed Umusambi village to be their home. And we've been really finding some good stories where like free-range cranes that came from outside and managed to couple to fall in love with the cranes that we have here, and they have been able to have some chicks. And that's the kind of stories of love, stories of hope that we need during this hard time. Umusambi village is only a tiny bit of the work we do. We work really out, like throughout the whole country. One of our strategies is to bring as many members of the community on board to protect gray crown cranes and other endangered endangered species. So we have recruited a team of community conservation champions, and these are members of the community who with a passion and love and the willing to really come on board and help us protect the species. So we train them, we give them all the training that's possible, and we empower them with equipment. We give them like everything that we can to really stand as our ambassadors. So they will conduct meetings in their communities to educate their parents, their colleagues, their friends. They will collect data, they will protect key habitat areas for the species we are working with, and protecting some of the breeding side. In addition, we give them like smartphone with some applications where they can collect information that is really useful in the long term to understand the changes that are happening in the areas, but also on the species that we are monitoring. So this map that I'm showing you here is the map of Rwanda, and it's showing you the current location of our community conservation champions. As you will see, we have like some hot areas, like in the north, like as northeast of the country, and the south, where we have like some of those key biodiversity areas. But our community conservation champions, either working with cranes, working with other species like birds, working on the restoration side, they are all located on this map. And we are working hard even to make this network bigger and bigger. And the more people we have on board, the more our work become easier. So today I would like to take you to one of the sites, and let's talk to Dr. Deo, who's going to tell us about the team of champions that he's visiting today.
Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Dr. Deo. I'm a trained veterinarian and the Crane Project Program Manager for Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association. Right now, we are in the south part of Rwanda where we are meeting our community conservation champions. We would like just to hear the work that they have been doing here. I'm checking if they have any challenge they have been facing at the field. And then I also check if they collect the right data at the field. Right now, this guy, they are doing amazing job where they collect every kind of data of the crane they sight on the field.
Thank you so much, Deo. It's really good to hear from you from the field, and thank you for the work you're doing. So, as I mentioned, we work throughout the country, and I would like to take you to another site, which is Rugenzi Marsh. It's in the northern part of Rwanda. So Rugenzi Marsh is a wetland of importance, of great importance. It's a Ramsar site, and it's also an important bird area by birdlife. So what I wanted to mention to you is that Rugenzi itself, it has nearly a quarter of the population of gray crown cranes in Rwanda. So it's a really important site for us to work. So our work around the marshland involves like raising awareness among the communities. We really go into schools and try to run campaigns, work with kids. And we have created the clubs, environmental clubs, like in the villages nearby the marsh, where we bring kids like really down to the marsh, and we educate them through fun, and we try to connect them with nature. And in addition, we try to make them have an environmental impact. So they have all actions like planting trees, cleaning the environment in their own areas. So the other work we do is we try to establish partnerships with local leaders to make sure we can monitor and better protect the marshland against some of the illegal activities. One other important aspect of our work is creating jobs. On this map, on the left, you see this is a photo of Rugenzi, but again, on the right, this is the map of Rugenzi. And it's showing the current location of our community marsh rangers. So we try to recruit from these communities and we empower them, same as we empower our conservation champions. And every day they will monitor the marsh, the buffer zone, and they will work with local leaders to make sure we can reduce the illegal activities, but much more importantly, to educate members of the communities about the importance of the marshland and why we need all to protect it. So we are at a time when we feel like we have established a really great network of community that is enabling us to have much of the impact or the results we want with friends. But one thing I would like to mention is, you know, like as humans, it's so easy to think of the future. We sometimes buy health insurance. We buy insurance for our vehicles, insurance for our houses, because we want to be certain for the future. But I've not come across any insurance that we can buy to ensure like our species and their habitat, to make sure like they are safe in the future. So the only way that we can secure the future of the species that we are working with is actually by investing in the kids. So at our WCA, we really value so much working with kids. And that's when we have like a young people actively involved in conservation and growing up with it. It's the only way we can secure the future of our species. In that way, to make us happy that the future of our species, our natural habitat, are in good hands in the future. One other important aspect of protecting our species is to protect their habitat. Over the last couple of years, we have invested a lot in activities that aim to protect and restore the key habitat for cranes and other species we work with. Let's hear from Cecile, our botanist.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Cecile Kaitanirwa, RWCA botanist and habitat restoration manager. Today, I'm at Tumsam village, sanctuary for disabled grey-crowned cranes. The first restoration site I worked on straight after my university studies. I'm excited to share with you some of our activities in habitat restoration and protection. In past 4 years, we contributed to the restoration of 5 different sites, including wetland and forest in our country. We produced more than 70,000 indigenous trees of 35 different species from our nursery. The most part that I found exciting in my job is to work with kids. Connect them with nature, teaching them how to grow trees rather than just planting trees, starts creating ownership in them. To succeed in our restoration activities, we work with communities around the country. We raise awareness in them of how to protect trees and the importance of indigenous trees. We hire them in tree planting events and the management, which both benefit community livelihood as well as the biodiversity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cecile. So this is really a tiny bit of the work we do. We wish we could take you everywhere in the country where we work. But one thing I want to mention is that, like, as we've been working for a couple of years, the more we understand the species we work with, the more we design more strategies. So every time we are always thinking of new ways we can better protect grey-crowned cranes. So one other thing we do is evaluation. So over the last couple of years, over the last 5 years, we've been collecting data through our community conservation champions, the rangers, and our regular visit to the field. We have also been conducting census, like means annual count of grey-crowned cranes in Rwanda. And we have actually completed one of our 5th census of grey-crowned cranes in Rwanda. And today I would like actually to take you with me to show you how it looks like. So our census only lasts 3 days. We try to minimize the number of days so that we can avoid double counting or even repeating like the counts. We combine the aerial surveys where we use a helicopter, and that's when we fly in helicopters over the areas like a national park, and we follow the same path every year, counting the cranes in those areas that we cannot access by foot or vehicle. And in other parts of the country where we can access with vehicles and foot, we have teams that follow the same route every year. Our census happen at the same time of the year, the same month, the same date, and the same team to minimize any risk of having results that cannot be compared. So our results can be compared over the years. So it's really like a good coincidence that I can even reveal the number of grey-crowned crane census this year. So we have just counted 997 grey-crowned cranes this year. And this is a constant increase when you compare with the previous years, as this trend shows you. So from 487 when we started our census, the first census in 2017, to 997, we have already doubled the population of grey-crowned cranes. So this is really good, and we could not do it without all of you, your support, without our supporters, like who really can't really have stuck with us and are supporting us and believing in the work that we do. We do not only do census, we have also been using GPS tags technology. We have tagged a number of cranes. These two maps here that I'm showing you, they are like maps that plot the movement of two great crown cranes over 6 months. So on the left, this is a map that shows you the boundaries between Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania. And as you will see, this crane has really pushed boundaries, moving between Rwanda, Uganda, and nearly to Tanzania. On the right, it's another map showing you the movement or the 6 months movement of another crane between Rwanda and Tanzania. So what we've come to understand with all of this kind of data is that crane push boundaries. And if you're going to be successful, we need to push boundaries. So our organization is really now so much invested in exploring ways we can establish strong partnership with neighboring countries, organization in neighboring countries, so that we can share information, design action to better protect these cranes that move in between borders. So what we've come to understand is that the survival or the future of a species does not only rely on me, does not only rely on my team, it relies on bringing as many as we can, the community conservation champions, the rangers, the neighboring countries, organizations, and teams, all of us working together to save a species. And we really would like to invite you, all of you today who are listening, to join us on this quest to protect the great crown cranes in Rwanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope you followed the video, and yeah, we are here together with my colleague Deo. So, and we can maybe give floor to Beth Kaplan and continue with Otherwise, we are here to answer or to hear from you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. That was really nice to see that video. And thanks to all of your team for this great work you're doing with wetlands and the species that inhabit the wetlands. And you're getting lots of nice comments in the chat. So now I'd like to turn it over to the team from Arcos. And we welcome you. You can go ahead and take the mic. And if you have a PowerPoint or a video, you can go ahead and share that. Are you, is Arcos team there? Christella and Brigitte, are you there? Oh, good, great, okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you and welcome in our presentation. I'm Christella Suavisi Radukunda. I am with my colleague Brigitte Kanyamugenge. We are pleased to present you about Amasangano Wetland Collaborative Restoration Challenges and Opportunity. Amasangano is a confluent zone of Akagera River, joining waters from Nyabarongo and Akanyaru rivers. It is a very high diverse area with birds, insects, mammals, and other biodiversity. This area has also a great potential for ecotourism promotion. Here on this slide, you can see some of our survey on some taxa like Odonata, Lepidoptera, and birds. We choose them because they play a great ecosystem function like pollination, indicators of environmental health, and biological control. You can see that on birds, we have many birds which are vulnerable or near threatened. This shows how the area is a key in biodiversity. Amasangano wetland, even if they are a key area in biodiversity, it is threatened with some issues like unsustainable agriculture, invasive species, unsustainable fishing, and quarries. ARCOS has started to restore Amasangano. Let me pass the floor to Brigitte to explain more on the intervention we are doing on Amasangano catchment. Thank you so much, Christella, for giving me the floor.
Hello, your presentation.
Yes, can you hear me?
Presentation is not moving. Your presentation
Hello?
is not moving.
Oh, the presentation.
Yes, you can hear you, dear.
Yes.
Do you see it moving?
Yeah.
Like this?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let me check what is going on.
Are you in the presentation mode?
Yes.
Maybe you turn it to the normal mode. That's when most of the time it's right.
That is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, sometimes it does not work well. Yeah, now it's well. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Yeah. I'm now going to take you through the ongoing interventions carried out by ARCOS for the restoration and protection of the Amasangano wetland. This process has started in 2016 with a project funded by FONERA named Water, Energy and Food Security Nexus. It's where we have started working with local communities operating in the landscape. Our objective through this restoration process is to, of course, restore the Amasangano wetland through natural regeneration, reintroduction of native species, and closing clay quarry holes. Another objective is about protecting the Amasangano wetland and its ecological integrity by promoting sustainable practices in the landscape, but also along the river banks and buffer zone of the wetland. The third objective is about promoting sustainable economic solutions through ecotourism and other potential community-based enterprises. To implement these initiatives, we use ARCOS-based approach. It is an integrated approach developed by ARCOS, and we use it to implement all our on-ground interventions. It is built on 4 pillars, as you see. B stands for building leadership and sustainable community institutions. And we have started with this pillar B because we believe that communities are the frontline stakeholders. If they are not well engaged, if they don't have ownership of the interventions, then any efforts you could make would be in vain. The other pillar, the second pillar, is about environmental resilience. We promote sustainable environment practices at landscape level, but also at individual level. So, this is because in landscape restoration, you cannot consider one individual person. But again, restoration starts by one person and moves to the entire landscape. Under Pillar S, we have sustainable business solutions because even if we work with a diversity of stakeholders, but when it comes to on-ground interventions, we consider the communities. And you cannot talk about environment, you cannot talk about sustainable cooperatives or community groups without talking about business, because they are there to raise income, to have to improve their livelihoods. So we bring in this aspect of business, but we empower them, we support them to do sustainable business. And the last pillar, which is T, but also which is the most important one, is about transformation and inspiring others. We believe that transformation, of course, is a process, but again, it starts with one individual person by changing the mindset, by adopting sustainability principles in daily operations, behavior. It's actually looking at behavior change, starting from one individual person. And when that person has changed and has adopted sustainability thinking, then the change can be upscaled to other people in the society, in this case at landscape level. And as you see, the foundation for this approach is what we call sustainability agreement. It is a performance-based contract that we sign with the communities when they show the interest to work with us in this process, in this restoration process. We sign a long-term sustainability agreement. It's generally for 10 or 20 years. We never sign an agreement of...
Sorry to interrupt. Would you be able to try to advance the slides?
Yes.
To where you're talking. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and all these interventions are meant to contribute to sustainable development. As you see, the roofing is about sustainable development dimensions, ecological, social.
Sorry, your slides aren't moving. We're still on slide. Is that where you want to be? Slide 5?
Oh, which slide do you see?
We can see slide 5. Is that correct?
Okay. Slide 5. No. On my screen, I have slide 8.
Well, what I could suggest, maybe you could unshare and try to share again. Maybe that will help, because it seems like the slides aren't advancing. Yeah. I don't know how that happens, but...
Can you see it moving now?
Yeah, slide 8. Yeah.
Okay. I was explaining about our cost-based approach. Now we are going to see what typical actions on ground with the communities. Into this process, the first or the entry point is the engagement of key stakeholders. We are working very closely with the government, different government institutions from central down to local government. And we are working with local communities through different structures. We are working with smallholder farmers as individual farmers. We work with community groups gathered into associations. We also local cooperatives and local communities engaged in different activities. As you can see, people engaged in quarries and people engaged in handcraft and so on. We also try to engage private sector, especially as presented by Christella in previous sections. There is a large-scale sugarcane plantation. We are trying to engage either farmers involved in sugarcane plantation, but also other private sector institutions operating in the area. Like here, I gave an example of local miners associations, but also there are a number of private sector institutions in operating in the area that we are trying to approach. The purpose is to raise their awareness and, of course, discuss with them about sustainable practices that could be adopted in their business operations. Other partners include different partners like donors, like the Impact Adventure is a platform or is of people from different locations worldwide. They come together, organize trips, but target an area to make an impact on that area. This is an example of other partners we have tried to engage. Of course, we also work with schools and different other partners. These are examples of interventions and key achievements. Like in stakeholder engagement, we are trying to develop a Namasangano management plan in collaboration with Bugesera district and local communities. Of course, this is a consultation. It's a process where we do consultation with a diversity of stakeholders. Another thing is that after engaging this restoration process, 3 years later, the Amasangano area was the activities of quarries and livestock free grazing was officially restricted in the area. Of course, some people can do such activities in the wetland, but they are already aware that these kind of activities are not allowed in the wetland. So we are trying to this is a way of promoting natural regeneration and community engagement, of course, in the process. And as the next box is about community engagement and capacity building, we are now working with over 65 community groups operating in the area. But as we work at landscape level, we are considering the entire Ntarama sector. This is why you will see a big number of communities involved. And we have tried to organize the fishermen operating in the sector, and we have organized them into a cooperative, trying to make a plan and to assess what are the challenges and what are the possible solutions. Then from the solutions identified or suggested, we pick some of them and support the fishermen to implement those solutions based on the funds available. As I said earlier, we also work with schools and the surrounding community. And this is basically about awareness raising and students' involvement in protection activities, but also we support sustainable practices at school level, like water harvesting, like creating green learning zone, to make sure that the students grow up with this sustainability thinking in mind. And we encourage the students to replicate the practices in their households. we also have initiated some key actions for ecotourism development, where we have now established a community-managed ecotourism center in the area around Amasangano. We have also many landscape restoration activities which are ongoing now, including tree planting. We have now 6 perennial tree nurseries, and from 2016 up to now, we have already planted over 400,000 trees, and the process is still ongoing. By working with the farmers, we have already secured over 970 hectares engaged by local farmers for restoration. We have also we also provide small livestock to local farmers to ensure that they have access to manure, but of course they generate some income. We do other practices in the landscape, like erosion control, rainwater harvesting, and promotion of sustainable agricultural land management practices. And we also support financial solutions at community level. This aspect of finance comes because of the aspect I've said earlier about business. Because if people are engaged in these activities, but we have to remember that they are also doing business, so we provide a way for them to access finance. ARCOS has an initiative called Umusave Fund. It's a fund established at cell level, and all the communities working with ARCOS in that cell can access the fund to implement income generating activities. But through the fund, we can also give incentives to best performers, and we can support small projects with common benefit in the community. These are examples of what is going on. These are students, as you can see, involved in tree planting, communities planting trees, the community managed the tree nurseries, and the ecotourism service center. I give back the floor to my colleague to continue.
Thank you, Brigitte. Now we are going to see the challenges we are facing in the process of restoration of Amasangano wetland. First, trees are growing, but sometimes they dried because of a long dry season or flooding. We had also limited resources because Amasangano wetland restoration project demands many resources. Even if we face the challenges, we have seen some opportunities, like the area is potential for ecotourism. You have many ideas that can be done on Amasangano. Some examples that we can share with you are recreation fishing, storytelling, or a kayaking activity. So we invite also the district of Bugesera and other stakeholders to come and enjoy the Amasangano. The other opportunity through this Amasangano wetland restoration, we have been supported by the government and other stakeholders. Brigitte told you about the central government, 2 local government that have been supporting us. The third one, Amasangano was confirmed as an area among ecotourism sites in Bugesera. To end,
we have a future priorities that can be done. Let me come to Brigitte and explain more about the priorities we have. Yeah, the priorities we have for future is, of course, keep engaging as many stakeholders as possible, because so far we are working from Bugesera side, but I don't know if you know the area, but the area touches on Bugesera, Kigali, and Kamonyi districts. So we need to engage all the districts sharing the landscape. Apart from stakeholder engagement, we also have commitment to keep working the communities to build their capacity for them to adopt sustainable practices through ARCOS-based approach. And of course, we will keep mobilizing funds to support the initiatives. As I said earlier, this process has started in 6 years ago, and it is a long-term process. You cannot restore an area like that within 1 or 2 years. It has to be a long process through which you engage all the stakeholders involved and so on. So we call upon the support, collaboration from with many stakeholders, either the stakeholders engaged in the landscape, but also other stakeholders who are not even operating in the area, but a diversity of stakeholders will bring many ideas and different types of support. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Okay, good. I'm going to hand it over to you, Vina. You can take over monitoring discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth. And I would like to thank you all speakers, from the first speaker to those two speakers from ARCOS. You did great presentations, and we learned a lot from you. And I would like to open up the discussion. First of all, I would like to invite everyone who didn't write something in the chat or who didn't ask a question, who to ask it if she or he has it through the chat or through talking. You can just notify me and I give you the time to speak. First of all, I would like to send the chat, and as I can see, question is asked in the chat were answered, except that maybe someone may have something to speak or to add. I can give him or her the floor. Is there someone who has a question?
Yes, I have one question. I wrote it in the chat box, but Professor Vizur didn't answer my question. So, because he mentioned somewhere in his presentation about Statunga, and I was asking if there is Statunga in Rugezi, and he mentioned someone in Statunga there were Statunga. So is there still Statunga currently?
I'm not sure if he is still here, because
But he tried in the chat.
he was planning to leave soon.
You have said that he'd been there after 5 years, and at that time, Statunga was there.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for the intervention.
And let
me know if.
Again. I have
What did you say, Patrick?
Yeah, it's a question about what Brigitte and his colleague or her colleague present about. For those wetland, Amasangano wetland, I had the church there, and what she had present about is really true, but I've seen also another trait that the population or the community around there, they have the scarcity of water. And I would like to ask her about what about for that issue? Because you can't restore the wetland while the population or the community around, they have those issue of the traits, the water scarcity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of you respond, Christelle or Brigitte?
Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick, for the good question. Actually, the threats we have presented now are the threats what you can see around the wetland. But we didn't cover it, but we have conducted an exhaustive need assessment in the catchment, in the landscape, and we have identified many other issues, even at community level. And I've in the presentation, in the slides of the presentation, I have somewhere mentioned a Amasangano management plan, which is under development. So this is like a guiding tool, which it is a tool that will guide all restoration interventions. It also integrates all the solutions to the issues identified in the landscape, including environmental related issues, at least what we can control, but also the community, the issues where issues affecting the communities. So the access to water, of course, is a big challenge, and it is considered in that document. But of course, again, as we have presented, among the main challenges, we have limited resources, and the interventions are implemented based on the resources available. So as we mobilize funds, there are many aspects that will be considered based on the resources available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I go on, I would like to let you know that we prepared a few questions for you to just have your views on today's event, and I put in the chat the link for a short survey. Please go to the chat room and respond to our few questions. It does not take too much time, and it will not much distract you from the event. Also, Jean Ferrus notified me that he wants to add something on the video they presented, and also add something on activities Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association is doing, and I would like to let him talk about it. You are welcome, Ferrus.
Thank you very much, Vena. This is Deo speaking.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, the video that you watched,
it's only highlighting one species, crane, but we are working on the other species like statunga, shoebill, but I don't know. I don't know if in the video they didn't just highlight too much on the work of the 3 species. We have the Statunga conservation champions in Idweru Akagera complex wetland. They are now monitoring the Statunga. Also, they are using our approach just to engage local community and then to educate in the different schools around that area, especially in Ngoma district and the Ugesera district. We are now also monitoring the shoebill in Akagera, in the wetland that is outside of Akagera. We have the conservation champions. We do the census for the shoebill. Like last year, we cited the two shoebill. We use also the helicopter because most of that area you cannot access it by using the vehicle or by using the foot. Or on the bat project, we are doing a lot of monitoring and different researches on the bat project countrywide. So we are now also focusing to monitor one species of birds in a different area. Also, we have the conservation champions who monitor the species. Now, we in our database we have that information for the shoebill, for the statunga, and for the birds. Not only the crane. So most of the people, when they said One Wildlife Conservation Association or the Imisambi project, we have the other project that we are working on. So that was the comments. I was the one just to add on that video.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deo. And I have a question from what you say. Do you also do the regular surveys for the Statunga? If yes, how many do we have now, and where did you see them in Rwanda?
So now we are focusing only on Rweru. So we are not yet just doing the census for Statunga, but we are planning to do that maybe in next year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, in addition to that, Vena, so of course we started protecting the wetland where it's agriculture there is encroaching the price for that Statunga. Poaching was really high. And we worked with local leaders, with poachers and the community around to engage them. Instead of poaching, protect them. So, and we have different kind of initiative. We have started with communities there. Most of them was poachers, of course, together with community around. They are now grouped in cooperatives. So we have some initiatives that we are working with them. So in Rugezi, Rugezi, it's a wetland, it's marshland, big one. So it's now protected with rangers. So we also have some initiative working with, of course, ex-poachers, community around, women, kids, as the video mentioned that. So we still have a lot to do. But yes, regarding on Statunga and Rugezi, even though I was asking, but no Statunga recorded like in 7 years ago till now. So I would say they have been extincted there. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Feroz, and your colleague. I have a question in the chat, and it's from Mukasangwa. Aroizi Mukasangwa. She's saying, some wetlands become like wreck of because of being flooded. What about their conservation? Or what about the restoration or conserve them as lake? As lake, like, yeah. She asked this question, but I'm not sure who this question goes to. If she can unmute and talk more about her question and who she is asking, it can be great. Otherwise, anyone here among the presenters can respond to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Vena.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
The question is that I ask myself, some wetland like the wetland around in the industry.
Oh, I don't hear you anymore.
Lake because of floods.
I missed your some sentences and maybe you can restart so everyone get very what you mean. I missed your few sentences and I think it's the same to all others and I think you can restart again.
Thank you. Some wetland, for example, the wetland around the Inyange industry near Masaka area, they become like a lake. What about the restoration of the species in that kind of wetland? Or that wetland will be continue to be conserved as a lake, like as a water, or will be restored? That is my question.
Okay, and who is the question directed to?
Anyone who is able to respond.
Okay, yeah. I'd like to let anyone who has answered to.
I think I can say something about this, about her question. Of course, a wetland to be flooded and become like a wetland, it means that there is a lot of erosion in the catchment, and the wetland is critically encroached and has lost its capacity to hold the water. So this means that, first of all, in the first place, the wetland should be restored to bring back this capacity, its original capacity to hold the water, because normally wetlands are like sponges, and when there is water, when you can do an experiment by yourself. When you put water on a sponge, what happens? So the wetland is like that. So if it cannot hold like a lake, it means that it has lost that capacity. So in my thinking, the wetland should be restored, but the restoration should not be focused on the wetland itself, but restoration efforts should consider the entire landscape, where the erosion comes from, in the agricultural ecosystems, in the catchment. The entire landscape should be restored. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I catch something. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I have some other questions in the chat. Sorry. Oh, Dushimimana Emmanuel asked, what are strategies taken to restore the wetlands which was already disturbed by agriculture? Anyone also can respond to this question. To repeat about the question, he asked, what are strategies taken to restore the wetlands which was already disturbed by agriculture? Maybe Arcos have some interventions in disturbed wetlands, especially in the eastern province. Do you have the answer to this question, Brigitte and Christelle?
Mr. Vena, I think I have something to tell the Shimi man. So we have many wetlands here in Rwanda, but Rema has categorized them by using just the use of the wetland. So we have the total protected wetland. We have the conditional use wetland and the unconditional use wetland. I don't know which wetland is he talking about.
As we know, the wetland is very important.
Can you speak louder?
Yeah. As we know, wetland is so very important.
Your voice is not being heard.
Your voice is too low.
Are you understanding now?
Yes, please go on.
As we know, wetland is so very important for the.
You are good again now.
Yeah.
Your internet is not good, and maybe you can type again in the chat.
Okay.
Hello, can I come in?
Yes, please, Professor.
Thank you so much. My name is Umaru Garbawali. Unfortunately, I was on the road, so I was not able to follow up the thing, but I got the question here. So, just the previous speaker talked about the Rwandan classification of wetland, which is into three, where we have total protection, then wetland used with condition, and wetland that can be used for without condition. Now, the question of if I clearly understand the question, how do you take to restore a wetland that is being destroyed by agriculture? So this depends on the priority put in place. For example, if the government change the priority of the wetland from agricultural wetland to agricultural, maybe to wetland which has to be totally protected. For example, we are talking about Ramsar wetland here. Then, of course, it take to carry out a full study and be able to understand the situation, and also maybe use people who are there to know what was the current situation, what are the kind of biodiversity that existed in the wetland, and then maybe some physical study to also be able to determine where are the limitations of this particular wetland. When you identify this limitation, a limit of the wetland, and decided on what to do, then you go ahead and come up with the plan, which will be preferably the plan should be somehow to ensure that it copy its original state. original state that the wetland used to be. A very good example can be seen now in Yandugu wetland, just here in Kigali city, which has been, which is in the state of restoration. Some other kind of structure or activity can be brought inside, but we try as much as possible to ensure that the wetland can perform the functions that we want it to perform. For example, are we thinking of the wetland to be a buffer for the flood, or are we thinking the wetland to be some restoration for the kind of biodiversity and so on? So it really, there is no formula one-to-one that somebody can tell you that go and do this. Somebody has to understand what is the priority, what is targeted for, and what was the condition of the wetland initially before it gets degraded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a great contribution. Is there anyone else who wanted to add something on this question? Maybe no one. I can continue to the question from Mbabazi Asuma. He said, "Dear Brigitte, kindly clarify about opportunities stated in the topic Amasangano Wetland Conservation." Can you clarify about opportunities you mentioned in your presentation, Brigitte?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mbabazi, for the question. Actually, the opportunities we see there, it's the opportunities we meant, the opportunities we see there to support the wetland restoration process. The first one was about potential for ecotourism and other business, nature-based businesses in the area. This is valued as an opportunity because you cannot tell the communities to leave the wetland alone without showing them the alternatives. So if they were going there for example, they were releasing their animals for grazing, for example, you cannot tell them to bring back their animals if you don't show them the other alternatives where they can find fodder for their livestock. That was an example on livestock, but for example, you cannot tell the community to stop growing, like let's say, stop growing sweet potatoes in the wetland without showing the other alternatives. This is where comes the idea of nature-based community enterprises, ecotourism. And talking about ecotourism, there are so many other ideas that can be developed, not only around the wetland, but also in the community. Because as you know, rural tourism is another field for business, which is quite not well explored. I would say not well explored in Rwanda, while we have a lot to share in this industry. And support by the government and other stakeholders. This is an opportunity because if you go for wetland restoration and the government does not speak the same language as you, I think the process will not be possible because, first of all, we need to fit into the national development agenda. And wetland restoration, we are lucky that it was considered among key priorities and it was integrated in national development priorities. So the support by the government, but of course, of the other stakeholders, not only the government. If we can approach the donors and they support the idea to restore the area, this is an opportunity. If we approach other stakeholders like let's say like other NGOs operating here in Rwanda, and they can contribute in this restoration process, they can bring in more project ideas to support this process. This is an opportunity. And again, confirmation of a Masangano area among main ecotourism sites for Bugesera. This is a very big opportunity because it has supported what we say. When you go to the community and you say this area is historically, ecologically, whatever important, without this title linked with it, not only the community but also other stakeholders can hardly perceive what you say. So area was officially confirmed as an ecotourism site for Bugesera. This is quite a good opportunity, and it is a tool to raise awareness and to attract more partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brigitte. I want to continue with the question from Mutabazi Patrick. He asked, I also have a question about some wetlands that are threatened for clay soil digging, just for building. Do we have idea of how we can fight for those issues, as wetlands are home of huge living organisms? Is there anyone who has...
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah,
Bella,
he said...
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, he said, I have also a question about some wetlands that are threatened for clay soil digging, just for building. Do we have an idea of how we can fight for those issues, as wetlands are home of huge living organisms?
Maybe I can contribute something. Still, always we need to go back to the priority of the government. The three classification of wetland. That particular wetland belongs to which particular class of wetland? That is one. Two, we always need to look at win-win situation. Usually before, when people say conserve wetland, they mean to keep wetland and not to touch it, and just make sure that all the biodiversity grows, what are coming in, going out, and so on. So first, you have to set priority. Which function you want your wetland to perform? That is one. Two, what is the trade-off? Because as Brigitte mentioned, you cannot leave people, you cannot just say you cannot touch this wetland when people are looking for food, looking for other resources that are possible to get in that particular wetland. So it is important to classify, even within one wetland, which area can be kept under total conservation, no touching, nothing. Where can we do some agriculture? Which kind of agriculture? Then, of course, mining is not a good thing in wetland. But if that the only way, or if that the only location, then it has to be determined by policy. For example, people who are in charge of wetland management in REMA, who knows what that particular wetland is designated for.
Then they can decide whether this can be done or not. But in general, what is the now we generally talk about wise use of wetland, which means trying to maintain the ecological character of a wetland by implementing the ecosystem approach within the context of sustainable development. So if that is how a wetland can be managed. We make sure that we are managing it in a sustainable manner using ecosystem approach, and make sure that the ecological character in the integrity of the ecological character of the wetland is kept. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I lose the connection a little bit, and I was seeing the question from Hilary McBean. If someone can read that question for me, that would be great, because I can no longer access it now.
Hilary here, shall I read it?
Yeah, please do that.
Yes, this is a question really for Brigitte and Christella. I was very interested to hear about their ideas for the wetland Amasangano and the tourism ideas, and I wondered if they had considered birding tourism, perhaps from a boat on the river. It looks very promising. Is that an idea the communities are having a look at? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you, Hilary.
Is Brigitte still there?
Yes, please. I was trying to check the question. Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Hilary. Actually, what we do, we are trying to engage the local community. There is a local cooperative. When they started, they were engaged in handcraft and marine transport. They basically were doing transport of people from Bugesera to Kamonyi and Chikari and back. But now they have integrated this aspect of fishing and ecotourism. So what we are doing now is to do an integrated business plan for them, integrating all these aspects: fishing, sustainable fishing, sustainable ecotourism, but also sustainable agriculture, because apart from being fishermen or doing transport in the river, they are also farmers. So their business plan is basically looking at these three aspects. They have now started, they have an ecotourism service center established. And of course, all these ecotourism products will be integrated, including bird watching, including recreational fishing, and many other products in this aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you very much.
I would be very interested to get in touch with you about that. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe you can exchange contacts in the chat room so you get in touch.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure that there is no other question below the question of Hilary, because it's almost at the end, and I will not accept any question or comment except if it is very, very burning Otherwise, we are approaching to the end. Is there any other question in the chat room? Because I lost the connection and came back after losing all questions in the chat.
Okay, Viviane Mahoro, he wants the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
There is also a question from Leonard. He's saying that what are the role of the youth in conservation, protection, and the restoration of wetland?
Okay, great question. Can someone to this question from Leonard?
I think the answer must be in context because it is just difficult to answer this question like that very easily, like because the question is very important and relevant, but in context of maybe what Brigitte are doing or something like that, or is it a general question just like that? Something need to be a bit clear before somebody can delve into the question.
Yeah, maybe I can give the time to Leonard if he is still with us, so he explain more about his question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
I was asking, maybe any presenter can help. I was asking, what do you think role of young people in the conservation and protection of restoration of wetland? I mean, how they could be involved or how they can contribute. Thank
you. Thank you, Leonard. Yeah, whatever we do in conservation, we conserve. We conserve for future, so we can't leave behind the young one. So our the role of the young in conservation is the way maybe my friend Feruz could explain little bits about our work in the environmental education. How do we involve the kids and the young in the conservation? Because we conserve for the future, and then we can't just leave behind the young one.
Actually, it's really good question. That it's a responsibility for everyone to protect, to conserve, not only the wetlands but also the environment. So for us as RWCA, so we recognized that if we don't educate the kid from the childhood, or if we don't give the chance the young ones to know about the environment, the importance of the environment, and their responsibility to protect the wetlands, or we are putting the danger, even ourselves, we are putting in danger. So for us, we work with primary school kids, but kids from the villages, especially those around the wetlands, because the cranes are wetland dependent. So we educate them, we group them into groups. So we have materials that we provide to the mentors, trained mentors, to educate them during the weekend to know about the wetlands. And again, they have other set of activities they do. We teach them the sanitation activities, making kitchen garden, and of course we educate them budding, planting trees, and from there we explain them why do we need to do all those activities. So most of the time it's hands-on activities, so that they can grow up with that kind of skills. And yeah, I
Hello,
think.
Dio. Hello.
Hello.
I think you are doing a great job because what you are doing, you are just catching them young, making them to understand wetland and love it, and then of course when it happens, when they grow up, when they become the leaders, then they will have the feeling of managing the wetland itself. Of course,
Exactly.
in everything we do, youth are very important stakeholders. We supposed to find way of properly integrating them, and in this kind of project, the way you are doing by giving them education, by making them involved and participating in the activity, I think that is quite very great.
Yeah,
Thank
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution to this question, and it is very critical to engage youth, as you all said, and you can engage youth in different ways depending on the organization you work for. Maybe the professor who works for the university can just focus on capacity building for different students in wetlands conservation and give them opportunities to assist professors or postgraduate students, or just take them to the field to learn about the wetlands and so on and so forth. And Rwanda WCA is doing a great job of just educating kids on wetlands conservation. And of course, youth should be taking also the initiative to make sure that they are protecting wetlands, because I will not sit there and say I'm not engaged while I should be doing something. Yeah, we need to all engage youth, and we youth need to take action and get involved. Yeah, thank you very much for all our presenters, and thank you all who attended this webinar. I would like to give special thanks to all of you who gave comments and who asked the question. It's really important to have your voice, and make sure that we are doing well in protecting wetlands and still gaps, and make sure that we address them in advance. Before closing, I would like to invite you again to the survey we prepared for participants of this webinar. It's a short survey. It will not take you more than 2 minutes, and I'd like to ask you to go to that link I gave you, and also Prof. Beck put it in the chat. You can go to it and respond to those questions. And I promise to not end the question to not end the meeting until you responded. And I'm going to officially close this webinar, and those of you who are still filling the form, you can still continue to fill the form. See you next Wednesday. The next Wednesday we'll have also another special event. It's not a usual research seminar as it was. It is a panel discussion about timber industry in Rwanda. We'll be discussing about the use of indigenous trees in timber in Rwanda. We'll explore challenges and opportunities. And we would like to invite you again in that panel discussion, because we still need your voice. We still need your comments and insights in different issues of natural resource management to make sure that we are doing our job well. Bye. Thank you very much. See you next time.